Are you ready, Steve?
I'm ready. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Heyo!
We are two best friends. Despite being husbands and fathers, we just kind of refuse to grow all the way up. Thanks for joining us. We're glad you're here. This is episode number 1, the beginning.
Hey guys, how are we today? Good times.
All right, episode 1. I feel like this has been coming for a long time, and I'm glad we're finally getting there. We're doing it.
Yeah, it's a bucket list.
Yes. So to kind of give you a heads up on how this is going to work and what our podcast is, we're going to talk about things that we enjoy, things that we're interested in, movies, music, video games, books, kind of whatever really floats our boat, things that are interesting in nerd and pop culture. So we may talk about Doctor Who. We could talk about Star Wars. Okay, we're definitely going to be talking about Star Wars.
That's right. Yeah.
But we're going to talk about things, Star Trek, Star Wars, anything that kind of fits in that realm of nerd and pop culture.
And I think in just life in general, just how that flows into our lives, and you'll learn a little bit about us and about what we do and who we are and all that.
Yeah, so Steve, we've known each other since we were about 8 and 9 years old. We grew up together. We've gone to elementary school, junior high, high school, college. We were roommates in college. I've known you pretty much my entire life.
Yeah, we've been through births, weddings, deaths, bar mitzvahs. No, I'm just kidding. We haven't done that. But yeah, and I think it all started on the sledding hill at West School, I think is what it was.
Definitely. Are you referring to the incident where I gave you the bloody lip trying to do the fireman scary?
If we check the security cameras at the elementary school, I think it might be a different story.
You're never going to let that go, are you, Madura?
Never will.
So
needless to say, we've known each other longer than most.
Yes, very true, very true. We've known each other a very long time. I think my brother may have you beat, but only by a few years.
He was in the womb with you. What can I say?
Well, you know. So, tell me about your week, Steve. It's been a week since we talked last. How was your week?
Yeah, week was good. So Thanksgiving was last week, so it was a short week at work, which is always good. We actually did a little untraditional or unconventional Thanksgiving. I actually took my kids, I've got 4 kids, took my wife and family up to a water park. And we spent the day before and then the day of Thanksgiving looking at more tattoos and more pale, pasty skin than I'd like to imagine. But we just spent the day up there hanging out.
That was just your kids, though, right?
That was just my kids, right? There, yeah. We're Irish. And we actually had pizza for Thanksgiving dinner. And then...
what kind of pizza?
It was cheese, because my kids, are fairly bland in their taste buds still. So, but then we had the next night. But the next night we came back and had a traditional, Thanksgiving Day dinner with the turkey and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and all the rest. So yeah, it was good. And then the tradition in the Steve family is to then put up Christmas decorations, the tree, and everything else the day after, which took all bloody day.
Yeah, I totally understand how that goes.
I felt like Clark W. Griswold when I come out of the garage, and I'm like, here's the huge rat's nest full of lights, son. Here you go. And so I had my 10-year-old literally up on a 12-foot ladder, putting lights up on the garage. My wife's like, he's gonna get hurt. I'm like, we have insurance for a reason. So he was up there busting his hump, earning his keep per Uncle Buck. So
nice.
So.
Did you guys have much chance to rest and relax, or was it just all work?
Oh yeah. There was definitely some R&R. It was good on Saturday. We've got a full plate of swimming, ballet, basketball, scouts, underwater basket weaving, all the things that a family of 6 has to do. But after that was all said and done, we totally relaxed, and we actually watched a movie, and I can't recall the movie, but it's with Owen Wilson, and he's this turkey who wants to go back in time to the first Thanksgiving and change the menu so that turkey is no longer on the menu and pizza is on the menu. And it was actually I thought it was going to be a cheesy, like they just made this because it was a seasonal holiday thing, but it was actually really funny. So
Was this an animated film, or was this like a live action?
no, this is animated. So he and I don't know. I could probably place the voice if I saw the face with the other turkey, but Owen Wilson was one, and then Amy Poehler was the female turkey that he goes back in time to meet. So he goes back to like 18 whatever, and the Pilgrim.
So wait
time.
a minute. So what you're saying is that you could probably figure out the title of this movie if you went to IMDb and you knew all the people that were involved.
I could actually, yeah. I could probably place the voice of the person if I saw the face of the person talking. Yeah, that's.
If you tell me the movie name, I can repeat it back to you.
But, before IMDb, I actually knew this guy. I knew this guy when I lived in Seattle, and before IMDb and all the rest, he literally could, within 6 degrees, connect anyone. Like, I mean, you could give him anybody. You could give him like the Jolly Green Giant and like Ronald McDonald. He could like say, okay, Jolly Green Giant was in this, that, and the other, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, week was good time. What about your week? Tell me about it.
So my week was a short week at work as well. I do IT. I'm a sysadmin, so it's computer stuff, which the nice thing on a holiday week is everyone's trying to get out. So no one wants to be working, so everyone's trying to get done. So it slows down, which gives me a chance to kind of get some projects done. So I did some of that. But I had Thursday and Friday off, and then, of course, the weekend, so a four-day weekend. And it was quiet. My in-laws are all off visiting another... my sister's brother basically had a kid. Well, I guess his wife had a kid. But
yeah, I hate
yeah, I mean, he contributed like 9 months ago, and he's done nothing since.
And we'll do nothing after.
Pretty much. But they're all out in California visiting family, and my brother and his family has his in-laws in town, so it was just Brita and the boys. I've got 2 boys, obviously, Charlie, who's about to turn 4, and Jackson, who's 2.5. And we just had the traditional turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and stuffing and green bean casserole and cranberry jelly and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Now, the only problem is we decided, since it was just us, we weren't going to do a big brine on the turkey like my wife usually does.
Yeah.
And she made this like salt, pepper, oregano, like it's supposed to be like you're supposed to, I don't know, barely put it on the turkey for some flavoring, and it was like a poultice. It was like thick. It was like slathered on this thing.
The plastic strainer kind of fell off when she was using them with Cormac's.
Yes, but the turkey turned out great. But when we made the gravy, we used the turkey drippings, and we weren't thinking about all of that salt. So gravy at Thanksgiving is
like a turkey jerky, like it was...
Yeah, I mean, so I pour gravy on everything, and it was on everything, and every single thing I bit into tasted like a salt lick.
Oh, gosh.
And so I had to that was bad. I had to make a second plate and do the whole thing, and I
became dehydrated because of all the sodium. And
she's going to listen to this, and she's going to hate the fact that I told that story. But anyway, so we did the traditional Thanksgiving, and then we put up the tree. So we have this thing. We don't do Black Friday. We put up the tree. We put up the decorations, the garland, and it took me all day, like you, on a Friday, and we got that done. My rule is it has to get done in one day because I don't want it stretching out over the whole weekend.
Now, are you a colored lights guy or a white lights guy? Because my wife is strictly white. She's like colored or like she has opinions.
I'm low class. I like the colored. I
Do you have a rotating Christmas tree? Does it spin?
No, not yet. Although we did add a train set to the Christmas tree this year. It was one of my grandfather's old ones. He's no longer with us, and so
that's awesome.
Was bequeathed it, and so we put that on there. So anyway, we did that, got it all set up, and then on Saturday we went and saw the movie Moana by Disney, and we really enjoyed that. And then on Saturday evening, I'm part of a motorcycle club, and our motorcycle club went down to the Ronald McDonald House downtown Salt Lake City, and we prepared a meal for all these families that basically they've got kids that are in the hospital, and so these families come from far distances, so the Ronald McDonald House gives them a place to stay so they can be close to their kids while their kids are going through cancer treatments or surgeries or whatever.
That is awesome. Did the kids go down with you?
No, we didn't want to have too many people there, and plus with little kids, with health concerns and whatnot, we wanted to keep the numbers small. But
Sure.
It was me and my motorcycle club. We provided a big pasta dinner and all the fixins, and it was great. It was a wonderful opportunity. It's great to give service. It's great to do that kind of charity work. We got to meet some really amazing children that are going through some really tough times in life right now, and we got to bring a smile to their face. And if it's only for that moment, in a world of hurt they're going through, man, I feel so lucky and blessed to be a part of that. It was amazing.
Thanksgiving is about giving back. That's awesome.
And it is, and we enjoy that, and that's part of the things my club does. And so it was a wonderful time. As far as watching stuff, like I said, we saw Moana, and my wife started on the cheesy Hallmark Christmas movies, so they've been going on for a little while now.
It's like crack for women. I don't know what it is, man.
Tell me about
the Oxygen Channel and Hallmark movies. They got something in the water.
I know. I'm ready to bust out Die Hard, the ultimate Christmas movie.
That's right. Hans Gruber.
Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun, too. So.
Well, glad you had a good week. It was. It sounded like we both ate to glutton and are better for it.
Are you still eating turkey leftovers?
No. So my wife, we don't do a big turkey. We do a turkey breast because you can put it in the crock pot and it doesn't have to take all day. It's literally 5 hours. It's done. Set it and forget it. So we're all about easy Thanksgivings.
Did you literally just quote the set it and forget it from the 90s late night commercials?
Yes, I did. And that is exactly what I did. And I actually almost forgot about it. It was 12 hours later. I'm like, there's nothing left. No. It was good. It's good.
That's
very cool.
Awesome.
So it's a little bit about us, about our week, and but good to be back. It's funny though. I get back to work, and I found this. I don't know if you found this as well, but I got back to work, and I had all of these emails that started coming through about different deals. I work in real estate. I'm actually an auctioneer, and we can talk about that later. But all these deals started coming through, and everybody said, "What's the status of this, that, or the other?" I couldn't remember anything. I've been gone a week. It's like in high school when you come back from Christmas break. I couldn't remember my locker combination. I'm like, who are you? I have no idea what's going on with any of these deals.
I work for you? What?
Right, I didn't
I've
even know
never
where
seen
to go.
you a day in my life.
I'm like, Carrie, where do I work again? Yeah, so.
Yeah, I had a little bit of that too. It was more of the kind of get back into the swing of things, talk with my boss and my coworkers, and kind of get caught up. And we got a new employee starting tomorrow, and so kind of doing some prep work for that. And
otherwise called hazing, but yes.
Sure, I mean, whatever. But anyway, so let's move on. Every week we're going to talk about some of the news articles, some of the tidbits and whatnot in our segment we call Rebel Intelligence.
There you go.
And I just want you to know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, you Bothans. You are wonderful. Okay, so let's get to the news. What has happened, Steve? Go.
Yeah, so the first thing, and that's this is big for anybody that has a female in their lives, whether mother, wife, or daughter, is Gilmore Girls. The revival dropped on Netflix on Black Friday, which 4 episodes to kind of pick up where they left off. Pick up with the Gilmore Girls. I don't know about you, Spencer, but a guilty pleasure, and I will only admit it on this show because I know that only a few are listening currently. Is guilty pleasure. I love the Gilmore Girls. Lorelai, Rory.
So my question then, Steve: Team Jess, Team Dean, or Team Logan?
Okay, we're gonna say it on 3 together because I don't want you to change your vote because it's like rock paper scissors. You're gonna change it like mid. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Jess.
Jess. Yeah,
yes.
I knew it.
That's right, dude.
Okay, so I'm gonna cop to
Logan's
it as well.
A punk.
I'm gonna cop to it as well. My wife watched it, and she's like, "You got to watch this with me. It's on Netflix." I'm like, "No, it's a chick flick thing. No." And then she started watching it, and I was kind of in the room, and I kind of heard it, and it was witty. And next thing you know, I'm like in
trying
season
not to watch
4.
it, the corner of your eye, making excuses to be in the room, vacuuming in the back of the couch.
I'm like, what did Emily Gilmore just say? No, I'm not watching it. No,
That's
not
right.
at all. So. Yeah, that dropped on Friday. Now, have you seen the 4 episodes on Netflix?
I've not. I've read a little reviews about them, kind of what happens in the 4, but I have not watched them yet.
Okay, so I've seen them already. Gosh, I'm.
You should be ashamed of
Nerd.
yourself.
I know.
Nerd.
We watched all 4 of them. I'm not gonna give anything away. My only takeaway from this was I kind of went, did this really need to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of felt that it how to put this. I felt that it was the creators' way, since they weren't involved in the 7th season of Gilmore Girls, kind of their way of kind of going about how they wanted to end with their characters and how they wanted to wrap up stories.
Right.
And for the most part, I thought that was kind of okay. But then as I got to the end and I took a step back and tried to objectively view it, I kind of went, what did we really gain? What besides, the creators kind of putting their final take on it, what did we really gain as far as viewers? And I kind of went, it was nice. It was nice to go back to Stars Hollow after 9 years.
Has it been 9 years?
Yeah, it's been 9 years. It's nice to go. It's nice to go back. It was nice to visit, but ultimately, I didn't feel like the story moved forward a ton. I just kind of felt it kind of rehashed some themes that had been going on before, and that's okay. A lot of people are going to love it. Trust me, my wife loved it.
Right.
I'm sure my sisters loved it. My mother loved all the women in my life. I'm sure.
Now, is Suki back?
So that was one of the things that a while back ago they talked about Melissa McCarthy, if she was going to come back.
Right.
And they said that Melissa McCarthy said that they hadn't reached out to her, and they said, we would love to have her back, but blah, blah, blah. We didn't think she was gonna, have time.
Because she's kind of had her own career. She's got, some solid movies.
She's huge.
Yeah.
She's huge.
Both career as well, anyway.
Right. So she's dropped a ton of weight. Good for her. I mean, she looks great.
That's awesome.
But she did come back. She did have one scene in the 4 episodes. So it was nice.
She was great. She was great in the originals.
One of the things, and I thought about this when they did kind of that season of Arrested Development.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Arrested Development, Fuller House. I think this may just be, one of Netflix ploys to play on our nostalgia, to play. I mean, it's still a business. Case in point.
Let me ask you this: did you watch Fuller House?
Yeah, because again, I grew up in that era. Full House, Steve Urkel. I mean, all those shows. I did watch it a little bit just to see kind of what happened and to see, Bob Saget and
Okay, so here's the thing.
Rebecca.
Netflix is, I think they've hit on to something. They can kind of hit that nostalgia. I mean, let's be honest. If Steve Urkel came back with, yeah, and that
did I do that?
Yeah, I mean, if they brought that back, I hate to say it, but I think I would watch it, at least for an episode.
Carl Winslow, man, back on the Die Hard thing.
Well, I mean, you can never get away from Reginald VelJohnson.
How do you know his name?
He's in Die Hard, the greatest Christmas movie of all time. Of course I know his name.
There we go. No, so I think, I think that we see that a lot, though. I mean, you see commercials that I know that Honda did one with Matthew Broderick a few years ago with the Ferris Bueller thing, and then
right.
And then there was another one. I think it was another Honda one where they had He-Man and Skeletor come out as little action figures. I'm like, okay, only like 35 to 45-year-olds are going to even know what this is like referencing, So I think they're
right.
definitely playing to our.
But how many 16-year-olds or millennials do you know that's probably looking to buy a Honda right now versus how many 35 to 45-year-olds that's hitting? They're like, hey, you know what?
Absolutely.
I love He-Man, and I do need a Honda. This works out perfectly.
That's right. It's, so I went to school for advertising marketing, as you know, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Find your demographic, find your market, find what plays to them, and obviously, it works. It works.
Netflix is killing it right now. I mean, I think they're doing the right thing there. Let's move on. So I've got something just today, or I guess maybe late last night. There's a hint that Grand Moff Tarkin. So let's jump back. Star Wars. Okay, sorry. Let me preface this. Yep. Star Wars Rogue One trailer. We've seen that they're showing Darth Vader's going to be in this, which I'm so excited about.
Awesome.
Because Darth Vader is by far the best villain in any movie.
Any movie.
Now, they're talking about, and they're kind of tight-lipped about this, but they've kind of spilled the beans, that it looks like Grand Moff Tarkin, who you remember is the actual commander of the Death Star in Episode 4, A New Hope.
Right.
Or as we just called it back in the day, Star Wars.
That's right.
They're talking about, they kind of showed this clip where it looks like they're showing him from behind, and they're kind of saying and hinting around that he may be in this, but it's going to be digital recreation because Peter Cushing died.
He died in 1994, actually. So yeah, he's been gone for some time.
So they're saying that they may be using the technology that they did to make Tupac rap at Coachella a couple of years ago.
Man, we are bringing out some references, man. I love this.
So I'm excited. So let me ask you this: if Grand Moff Tarkin can be in it digital, do you want to see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's bring back anybody who's that. I'm still a little miffed, to be honest. Not to digress, but Han Solo, the death of Han Solo, last movie. I was really miffed about it. Well, yeah, come on. If somebody's listening to this show and hasn't seen that, they should stop listening. Just put stop on the podcast and go listen to something else. My beef is this, okay? In the scene where Han Solo dies, and everybody kind of knew that was going to happen. He's there and he's talking with Kylo Ren. Chewie, what the freak, dude? What are you doing up there? He's just sitting listening to this nice father-son dialogue. Take out the crossbow and blow his brains out, right? He gets all mad afterwards and takes out 22 stormtroopers, like Jack did in 24 with a Beretta, took out all of ISIS or something. But so I was a little miffed. I thought Chewie kind of dropped the ball, but then I thought more about it, and here's what I'm thinking. Here's my conspiracy theory. Chewie has been gunning for the pilot position on the Millennium Falcon for who knows how long, man. He wanted Han to go. That's my only thought. My only conclusion.
So besides the fact that Chewie had a life debt to Han, you think that he put the life debt on hold because he wanted to get the captain's chair?
It's all about the greenbacks, baby.
I'm saying that you're a little far out on that branch. It's cracking. You need to come back in a little bit.
How do you feel, man? You're always in the back fixing the hyperdrive, man? You want to be in the captain's chair. Forget that.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Anyway, Grand Moff Tarkin, I'd love to see him. I think it'd be great. Bring back Tupac in Rogue One, maybe. See if he, Maybe it's like the Bond movies where they always have somebody do the Bond. Adele did the last Bond movie song. Maybe Tupac could do the.
So Tupac's gonna do the opening for Rogue One. All eyes on me.
Blow it up.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, we are so white, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
Just so dumb.
Check that box. Other.
Can I get Tupac, a dead Elvis? Can you bring back Little Richard?
I was going to say Richie Valens, actually. I saw I had a coworker that I was emailing tonight before I left for work, and he's boarding the plane. And I was like, hey, if the in-flight movie is La Bamba, I would suggest not watching it. And he's like, really? That's the last thing you're going to say to me? He's like, there are high winds up here tonight. He's like flying to Canada. I'm like, sorry to be so morbid.
So Ryan, this is way digressing. You guys having bad weather right now? Because we just got a ton of snow that dropped on us.
We have not had an inch of snow so Chicago. So not an inch of snow. It's actually raining like crazy tonight. But I will take rain over snow any day of the week because you don't have to shovel rain.
Yeah, well, I had to shovel snow today, so I hope it's coming your way. Okay, so let's move on. Did you see Disney's Moana? I told you I did, right?
I have not, but I have heard it's blowing up at the box office.
So that movie was really good. We really liked it. And it did $81 million in its kind of 5-day, what they consider the 5-day holiday weekend for Thanksgiving. And that falls only $13 million short of Frozen. Now,
wow.
We really liked the movie. We took our kids and... Let me tell you, taking a 2.5-year-old who's never sat in a movie theater before, I was feeding that kid red vines and popcorn.
I thought you were going to say
Skittles.
Horse tranquilizers and Benadryl.
Wow, it probably would have helped. But we sat there and we watched this movie, and my thought was, besides it being a great movie, is that it needed one real big catchy song, Let It Go was for Frozen, right?
Well, I
And
mean, there were
he's-
tons of catchy songs for Frozen. We have the karaoke, and I
Sure.
hear it all the time.
Yeah. The girls, of course.
But yeah, Let It Go was the headliner.
Was the big one. So I kept saying to my wife, I'm like, man, if they just had that one big one that would really hook it. I'm like, I think this movie could be great. Yeah, it made 81 million in its opening weekend. I think it's great on its own. But I did notice that Disney now has released a full video of one of the big songs in it. That's called "You're Welcome." It's this whole song that Dwayne the Rock Johnson plays a character Maui in it,
Right.
and he's singing this song. And I thought that's pretty great. Disney's saying, hey, we got to get this song out there that'll help drive people to come to the theater. And I was saying that to my wife over the weekend, and then boom, what do you know, today I'm seeing a news article saying that Disney's releasing the song so you can watch it in its entirety. It's out there on the internet right now, and that movie's in theaters. When has that happened?
Right. Well, when does it? It always comes back to marketing, though. So I thought when I've seen the trailers for it, I thought, well, that looks okay, But Disney obviously with deep pockets, they can advertise the crap out of something, and it does really well, right? Did The Rock actually sing the song? Do you know?
Well,
was it actually him singing? Because if so, he can wrestle, he can act, he can sing. Can this guy tap dance?
He probably can, but let's take singing in broad strokes when we talk about it.
It's more talking slowly, this like Music Man or something.
Yeah, think of Harold. Yes, think of Harold Hill from The Music Man, because that's more what it's like. It was more of I'm talking to a rhythm, and people around me are trying to fill in.
There are certain, hemisemidemic quavers going on here. Okay, very good.
What did you just call me?
Right. So Frozen obviously is huge. So the theme was good. Obviously, it had some probably morals to it. What is even the background? It's that he has certain powers, and then he meets.
So basically, what it is there's this story, and as they it's about a Polynesian culture. They don't really define which one it is, whether it's Fiji or Samoan or Tongan or whatever. But basically, a demigod named Maui steals the heart of this island. And this island gives life and whatnot, and he has this special fish hook that gives him magical powers, and he can turn into different things, birds and sharks and bugs and whatnot. But basically what happens is since the heart was stolen, like darkness creeps in and it starts like taking over islands and destroying fish and wildlife and all this other stuff. And he gets into this big battle, and Maui disappears and has been gone for like hundreds of years. And then they cut, and it's this little girl on this island, and she's supposed to be the next chiefess of the island when she grows up, but she wants to sail the oceans, and she ends up going to sail the oceans to try to find the heart and to try to find Maui so Maui can restore and put everything back the way it was before. And epic battles ensue and hilarity, and it was really good.
Very good. So, okay, very good. We'll have to check it out. I have to bring. I have 2 girls, 2 boys, 2 girls in that order, and I'll have to bring them to see it. I'm sure they'd love to see
They'd love it. Yeah, definitely worth seeing. It's a good family movie. You're not really going to go wrong there.
Yeah. So in other news, I was going to say, I know with the holidays upcoming and shopping ensuing, I know there was one thing that you wanted to talk about, Spence.
Are you talking about today, or are you talking about coming up?
Coming today, yeah, on the Nintendo Switch.
So they announced today that on January 13th, Nintendo's holding a big kind of press conference, hands-on event that they're going to be doing with media and with some like executives, where they're going to actually reveal the price of the Nintendo Switch, which has been a big issue for a lot of people. If you're not familiar, if you're into gaming at all, you probably know this, but if you're not familiar, Nintendo's coming out with a device that kind of looks like a tablet, and it's going to have controllers on the side. It's going to be portable, but yet you can come home, put it in a docking station, and it's going to be your home console as well. So it's a hybrid of a home console and a docking station. And they released a little teaser trailer back about 2 months ago where they kind of show it off, and they show like, young hip millennials playing it out on the go and at home. And anyway, there's been a lot of unanswered questions about price and hardware and on the 13th of January, they're going to have an event. It's going to be streamed, and there's going to be media there. It'll be all over the place online. You'll see about it, but they're going to reveal the price, and I know that's a big deal for a lot of people. There's been people who kind of gave up on Nintendo in the last generation with the Wii U.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wii sold gangbusters, but the Wii U with its gamepad was kind of clunky. In my opinion, was kind of clunky. It didn't sell well. It didn't have support from a lot of third-party vendors. And so we're going to see if Nintendo's going to be able to bring people back to a console.
So then some of this mystery, some of this mystique, some of the opacity of information has been on purpose. I mean, they've looked to kind of draw this out a little bit so they could have kind of a big reveal.
That's what Nintendo does. I mean, they're in my opinion, they're never up front with anything right out of the gate. They're going to give you a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then finally you'll get all the information.
So here's a note to Nintendo. If any Nintendo executives are listening,
which I'm sure they are.
Let's learn a lesson from the 80s. Hire Fred Savage again. Let's do The Wizard 2. You remember when they did the reveal? Super Mario Brothers 2? Let's do this, man.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh, it was 3. That's right. It was 3.
Yes.
So get your power gloves off her. I remember that line. I still use that line today. Nobody knows what it means, but I use it.
I love The Wizard. It's one of my all-time guilty pleasures for 80s movies and 90s movies, I guess. But
Rad Racer. Yeah. I mean, come on. The Power Glove. Oh,
yeah. I was talking about this with some friends. Think back to that movie. It's a really disturbing movie. It's about a mentally handicapped kid who has issues, who runs away to go to this, to go to California because that was the last place where his family was all together and his mom was alive and they were happy. And the brother finds him and figures out he's a prodigy at video games when they're in a gas station. He's playing Galaga or something. And then they go to this championship and the father's chasing him. I mean, the movie is about a mentally handicapped kid, and it didn't dawn on me that that's what that was about until I was an adult. I just thought, hey, this is great. These kids are going across country to play video games.
Right. Well, I think back in the day, man, things like that I think people are much more sensitive to now. We really have in that realm, I think, come further, right? So back in the day, we used to, I don't know. I was actually watching so I don't know if you ever watched the show Different Strokes back in the day. But there so there's actually an episode where they start to deal, as all sitcoms did back in the day, with some heavy issues, right? You got the Jesse Spano having the
on a very special blossom.
That's exactly. And on Different Strokes, they dealt with this pedophile, and with Willis or Arnold. I'm like, whoa, this is a little too heavy. I didn't sign up for this, man. I signed up for what you're talking about, Willis. I mean, that's what I signed up for. So they'd always kind of slip it in on you. Slipping in on you. So maybe the Wizard was really just a PSA.
A cry for mental health PSA, you think?
That's right.
All wrapped around Disney and Nintendo and Super Mario Brothers 3.
That's right. So with the holidays coming as well, obviously today is Cyber Monday. So I got to ask, Spence, I know that you're big into gadgets, gizmos, and all things tech. Have you made any purchases today?
So today, no, because I was really, really busy. However, a lot of online retailers were offering their Cyber Monday deals all weekend long.
Right.
So I did purchase a Google Home device from the Google store. If you've seen,
which looks awesome. I mean, the commercials look so.
Yes.
It reminds me of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Computer, hello, Dave. I'm like, my name is not Dave. It's Steve.
Dave, open the pod bay doors. I'm sorry, I cannot do that. That's what So I've ordered one of those. I'm really excited. I've got an Android phone and I use Google all the time. And, my kids say, Daddy, can we use the OK Google? And they want to talk. And they're like, they're in the backseat of the car going, Daddy, OK Google, play On the Road Again, Willie Nelson. I'm like, where did you pick that up? But
tax evasion.
I don't listen to country music, but all of a sudden he's back there going, On the Road Again, just can't wait to get on the road.
We all have guilty pleasures, even at 3.
Apparently. So, I'm excited to get this. I'm trying to decide where in the house I'm going to put this. Is it going to be in the bedroom so I can listen to music up there, a playlist to wake me up? Am I going to put it down in the living room, the kitchen? Is it going to, be shuffled down into the basement at some point, and that's where I'm going to be stuck with it? I don't know.
And you also have a Nest thermostat, like home automation type of system too, don't you?
Right. So I can actually hook that up. So just earlier tonight, I was complaining that I felt it was too warm in here right before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, I got to go get up. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I don't. I'm going to use my app. And I just got on my phone right here because I'm lazy instead of walking 10 feet. And I just turned it down. So
nice.
The fact I can hook up the Google Home to it and be like, Google, please lower the temperature by 7 degrees.
7 degrees? Icebox? What are you doing? So, quick story. So back in the day, when Spencer and I roomed together at college, okay, this man would year-round keep a box fan in the window, which was over my bed. And let me tell you this. We didn't go to college in Hawaii or California. We went to college in Idaho, at the foothills of the Timpanogos Mountains. And so there was a night, before I talked sense into my co-host, that I woke up to find, no joke, half a foot of snow on my comforter. Half a foot of snow on my comforter. So no doubt that he lowers his temperature by double digits regularly.
Listen, that story is completely true.
Absolutely, completely true.
I wish I could be like, no, that's not how it happened, baby. Let me tell you the real truth. No, that's true. And
on a side note, I had pneumonia. I got really sick. I was had to get some Z-Pack to get rid of some oh my gosh, it was.
So, because I have
uncalled
kids,
for is what it was.
Because I have kids, my wife is always like, it's too cold in their rooms. I'm like, fine, we'll put more blankets in there. And she's like, no, just turn the heat up. I keep it at 63 degrees at night.
Are you serious? You would have like icicles hanging from your nose.
Hey, I grew up in Chicago, okay? I learned how to adapt, and I'm training my boys to do the same.
Oh my gosh. But it's like that thing. People are always like, oh, you're from Chicago. You should be used to the cold. I'm like, no. Just because I'm from Chicago doesn't mean I like the cold. I deal with the cold because I'm too cheap to move.
Well, I like the cold. So,
yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't like, sub-zero temperatures.
I beg to differ.
If it's a balmy 65 degrees in the middle of winter at night, I sleep well. My wife loves comforters, and so the problem is in our home is that it's always 10 to 15 degrees warmer upstairs in our bedrooms than downstairs. So it can say it's 65 down here, but it's 80 upstairs. My wife's got 3 feet of comforters on the bed, and so I'm sweating while I'm trying to sleep.
I can empathize with her.
So I like to keep it cooler.
So Spencer uses the Nest system. I basically just do kind of the Fred Flintstone issue where I'm like, hey woman, turn up the temperature, and then she operates
hits you over the head with a frying pan.
Exactly. I can say that because I'm in I'm in an enclosed room where she can't hear me.
Right.
So anyway.
Wow. Okay, so let's move on before we say anything too incriminating, and we get in trouble with our wives.
Right.
Because that's gonna happen anyway. Let's be honest, but let's not give them more ammunition in the divorce. So each week, Steve, you and I are gonna have a discussion. We're gonna talk about something in nerd and pop culture. As we gain listeners, we're going to ask for their input on maybe what they would like us to talk about. But since this is our first podcast and we probably don't have any listeners previous to the first podcast because that's ridiculously unrealistic, we're going to talk about something we kind of talked about. Since this is our first episode, this is our origin story of our podcast, if you will. We're going to talk about origin stories in movies and some of the things we like, some of the things we maybe don't like, some of the things we've seen done well. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So, Steve, let me ask you this. Origin stories. Now, usually people think about just the comic book movies, right?
Yep.
Batman's, Superman's, the Incredible Hulk's, Iron Man's,
Spider-Man. Yep.
Right. Now, I'm going to define origin story as any movie that sets up a character or maybe a few characters or a band, a cadre of participants that are going to be integral going forward in movies, and it gives their backstory, right? Okay, I think we're on the same page there.
Yep, I'm with you.
Let me ask you, what do you look for when you watch it? Because obviously you go to the movies and you see these movies and you know it's going to be an origin story on a lot of these things. What do you look for? What do you look for in an origin story? What like really is the thing that gets you?
Well, I think what most people look for, and what is kind of a driving factor, what really draws us into a character, is where do they come from? What motivates them? What experiences have they had, whether good or bad, motivate their decision making later on, and it's those big pivotal experiences, right, that happen. I think one of the things that I've really loved, and you see this from in anything, comic books, or when you look at a show like Lost. I mean, they did, I think, a fantastic job of taking each individual character, and they spent a lot of time doing it and showing kind of how they got to where they were. And to be honest, out of the whole show, out of all the episodes, those origin stories are probably my favorite. To find out, Hugo in the lottery ticket, or Kate and her arrest and being
killing her father,
killing her father, or Jack and his father and all those things. And I think finding out that history is just kind of a natural tendency. We want to find out about where we came from, about where we're from, about our ancestors, about all those things. And I think in a good origin story, you find out what motivates that character to do things later on.
So I agree with you. I definitely think like the motivation of where someone comes from is a very, very powerful story. And there's a book series that I like by an author called, his name is Patrick Rothfuss.
Okay.
The book series is called The King Killer Chronicles, and it's only 2 books right now. A third book he's working on. The first book is in the series called The Name of the Wind. The second one is The Wise Man's Fear. In this book series, it's about this young man who is part of like a traveling troupe of performers, and his whole family and his whole troupe end up getting slaughtered by these kind of I don't know, mythological is not the right word, but these like kind of otherworldly beings that are kind of been told, in myth and lore. And then it's the book kind of becomes about like his journey to make something of himself, and he's a musician, and he ends up getting into this university where he starts learning this intricate system of magic, and it's a really powerful story. But there's kind of a story within the story where we're learning and we're finding out all this interesting backstory on this character, right? We're getting his origin story, but he also, Patrick Rothfuss, this author, is using this story to say like, hey, the tale of like a hero's journey, like how, he finds some mythical stick, and this stick grants him powers in this forest, and blah, 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 and a wizard sees him, and right, all these kind of tropes that we're used to, that he actually has this character like trying to build his own reputation, where he goes and he tells a story to these people, and these people believe it. And it didn't actually happen, but by the time the story gets back to him, like months later down the road, it's changed and it's grown. And he's kind of giving this beautiful depiction of like how, while we may know a story, you really don't know a story until you get someone's backstory and really find out truly who they are and what's going on. It's a great book series, but it's interesting because, as we're talking, I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, where someone comes from, what their motivating factor, like what drives them to be who they are, I think translates in movies, books, music, like, all the VH1 behind the music.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love those because you want to know what drove Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac to, write, to do this big album, when they're all falling apart. And, that's why they had some beautiful emotionally charged music. Well, you find that out.
The Def Leppard story, when the drummer, loses his arm and, I want me mum. That's the best.
Bring me back to those college days when I used to watch that every night I had a term paper due. So I love the origin story movies, Do you like it if the movie starts off right at the beginning where it kind of gets into the backstory, or do you like it when it kind of like does it in flashback, or it kind of gets back to it later?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about it as you've been talking. I've been thinking about some of the origin stories that I like a lot. Some of this, I'm not too crazy out of the box on my origin stories. Man, I love the Wolverine origin story. I just think he's an interesting character, and I think Hugh Jackman did a really good job playing him. I also think, and this might be one that maybe doesn't pop up on everybody's radar, but I really liked what they did with Captain James Tiberius Kirk and the new Star Trek movies that came out with Chris Pine. I thought those were awesome. Seeing him drive across the country, not able to look over the dashboard of a 64 and a half Mustang and kind of give him motivation with his parents about the decisions that he makes as captain and as he moves to the rank and whatnot, and some of his kind of obstinance to authority and all the rest. Really interesting.
So it's interesting you talk about the Wolverine character in the movies, because we really don't get his backstory until X-Men 2.
That's right. Yeah.
So
we just kind of are brought right into it with X-Men and
right. Which is, and I was trying to explain this to someone a little while back, is that the X-Men movies, like, you get Jean Grey's origin story, so to speak, in the third movie. Right. Wolverine's in the second movie. And then you kind of get Rogues in the first movie. She's kind of just barely discovering her powers.
Right.
But I wouldn't actually say that any of those movies are necessarily an origin story. But I would say that when they went back and they did X-Men First Class, where like the first group of X-Men kind of come together and assemble, that totally was an origin story for me.
Right.
Whereas the other ones just kind of like had like backstory on the individual characters. Yeah.
So I would say, to answer your question, I really kind of like coming into a story, like a Lost or like even Star Wars, the original, and then kind of having the director or having the producer, whoever, go back, whether within the movie as flashbacks or as separate movies, because I kind of think it's neat to watch them kind of later in life and then learn their origin story and say, aha, that's why they did that. Now it makes sense. Oh, aha, that's why Wolverine, or whatever, and get some of that. It's almost kind of like a surprise. It's like opening a present on Christmas. You're like, oh, it all makes sense.
Right. There's something about
holding like discovery.
Right. Yes, exactly. Holding back on characters, on some of that, so that when you get to that point where it can be impactful to the story, bang, they just hit you with it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about some of the origin stories that I really like, and in movies, I really am okay with most of them. Now, there is one that I don't think we need to see. No, there's two.
I think I know where you're going with this.
There's two movie franchises that I think we never need to see an origin story movie again. One, Spider-Man. Okay? So we did the Tobey Maguire movie, which was great, and the first one was an origin story. And then they rebooted it, and they did it with Andrew Garfield, and the first one was an origin story again. And I was like, yeah, the last movie, the last go-around was less than like 10 years ago. So now Marvel, Sony still has the rights to Spider-Man, but Marvel's kind of getting involved. They worked out a deal, so now there's some crossover. We've got another Spider-Man movie coming out. It's called Spider-Man Homecoming.
Good golly.
And it's with a different actor, and it's the guy who played Spider-Man in the Captain America Civil War that just came out. But I really, 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 really hope that they do not go back and do an origin story movie with him.
If I see a spider bite him on the hand one more time, I swear I'm going to lose it.
Seriously, who doesn't know that story? Now, mention it, flash back to it for a moment, something, he's having a dream, and they flash back and they show the spider biting him, freaking out and whatnot.
Yeah, just a few
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But if it's like the first half an hour of the movie is him getting into a lab and a spider coming down, I mean, come on, guys. Who doesn't know that story, right?
Right.
The other one is Batman.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Because we got it in the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman, which is my favorite portrayal of Batman, Michael Keaton, in the movies. Then we got it again in like 2004, 2005 with Batman Begins. With Christian Bale.
Then
when they did Batman versus Superman with Ben Affleck,
They
did it again. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is Batman. Batman has been on the TV, on the screen in some form or another, on and off, whether it's animated or live, since like the 1960s with Adam West.
Adam West, that's right.
Do we need to know about the theater and Joe Chill and, his parents being murdered because they were, getting robbed? And we've seen it.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to see it anymore. Let's just say, hey, if you don't know who Batman is and you're coming to see a Batman movie,
go out of the theater and go slam your head in the door and then go, to another movie. Go see Moana.
What they should do is they should do like Broadway does and have a little playbill that they hand out like, have you seen Batman? No? Here, read this.
Read this paragraph. It will sum it all up for you.
I mean, it's just yeah.
And I wonder why. I mean, do they have they run out of material? Can they not write some new stuff? I mean, what's the deal?
No, I think the Batman movies, they got tons of stuff to do, tons of materials they can pull from. I just think that Hollywood is kind of caught up in this, like, we have to let people know where we come from. We have to every single time. And I'm saying we've had, I'm trying to think of the two Michael Keaton Batmans, the Val Kilmer Batman, the George Clooney Batman. We had 3 with Christian Bale, now 1 with Ben Affleck, Batman versus Superman, and now another one coming out. So in my lifetime, motion pictures were going on to the 9th Batman movie. I think we've covered the origin story. I think so. I think we got it. I'm speaking as a fan. I'm speaking as someone who's going to pay money to go see another Batman origin story when it comes out again in 2 years.
You know you will. And you listeners out there, you will too.
It's like, take my money, please.
And you know what? That is the reason.
And you're probably right.
We'll pay for it.
You're probably right. Gosh. Yes. But the thing is, it's like, there's a new Batman movie. I'm clapping in anticipation. And I'm like a kid before Christmas. I can't wait. And then I get there, and I've got my popcorn, and I've got my Milk Duds. And then it starts into the origin stuff. And like, I'm just like, what? Why? No! And I get like frustrated. And then I think, I plopped down $15. That's why they're doing this. Dang it.
And one of the things, you bring up a good point as well earlier about even the flashbacks. Like, I'm fine. Do a little flashback, do a little whatever. I think directors kind of feel like they have to put their own spin, they have to put their own whatever on things, and so they want to give it their rose-colored glasses. The other thing that bothers me, though, is when a story gets into such detail, such minutia, that it becomes unenjoyable. For instance, one of the franchises that did this in one of the movies recently was the Incredible Hulk movie, the one before Edward Norton.
The Ang Lee one with Eric Bana?
Yeah. So they had montages, and Ang Lee, he's got a certain swag about his directing that kind of has these montages and these, pictorial representations and whatnot. But it literally, I remember it was like 10 minutes of watching cells under a microscope form and reform and mutate and all this. I'm like, holy, if I knew Ang Lee, if he was sitting next to me in the theater, I'd punch him in the face. I mean, come on, man.
It's like, I came to see a movie about the Hulk, not a biology lesson.
Exactly. I'm like, are we talking about like photosynthesis and like borophyll? We're talking about borophyll up here. I mean, that's what I felt like. Excuse
me, Professor Ang Lee, I'd like to audit your biology class.
Right? I came out with like a master's in like, thermodynamics and microbiology. It was
I do agree, those scenes got a little long.
Yeah, a little long. So
and the Edward Norton ones, though, like the Edward Norton film, there was just the one, right? I thought that was great. Like it was kind of a flashback. It was quick. They got onto it. I wasn't looking at microscopes and cellular division for 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. So I was kind of thinking, origin stories, like which ones that I've really enjoyed. And I'm going to fully admit this, and this is going to sound nuts because I'm totally into like all this stuff. But there was a time in my life where I got a phone call from my mother, and she says, have you seen the Iron Man movie? And this was the first Iron Man movie, right? And I said, it's not really on my list of things to do right now.
Slap your mouth.
I'm like, I know. I was like, I kind of hemmed and hawed. And my mom says to me, she's like, Spence, you've got to go see that movie. That movie is great. You're going to love it. Now, this is my mother speaking. She's not like your Marvel DC comic book nerd. She says,
Right.
you got to go see this. This is great. I really loved it. And I went, really? And she says, yes, you got to go see this.
Does it almost make you like now want to see if your mother's like, it's awesome? You're like, I don't know if I trust your judgment.
She's like, I love Anne of Green Gables, and you are going to love this Iron Man.
Pooh figurines. I mean, who knows what's going on here?
Right. So I was like, I love you, Mom, but... And she's like, no. She's like, trust me. Do this one thing for me. She's like, I bore you. I gave life to you. Do this one thing for me. I was like, geez, Mom, lay it on a little heavy. But I went and saw it, and I loved it. That first Iron Man movie,
Yeah.
What I really loved about that movie was
that blew the doors off. It was awesome.
Marvel Studios really set the tone for what they were going to do thematically, right? It was hands down a wonderful movie, but the thing I really liked about it is it's an origin story, how Tony Stark ends up becoming Iron Man, right? And to me, it never felt like a tired trope. Like, it didn't feel like I've seen this a bunch of times and, I knew the story, and so I was expecting stuff. I went in with no expectations, primarily because my mother was telling me I had to see it. But I went and saw it, and I was just like, dude, how did I miss the boat so badly that I had to take advice from my mother to go see this?
Well, I think before that hit the theaters, though, I think Iron Man has always kind of been a second tier. He's not the Batman, the Superman, the Spider-Man, the usual. He's kind of a second tier superhero. But since then, obviously, Marvel's done a fantastic job, and they obviously had this, well thought out to make this huge franchise to build on it with, kind of the after scenes with Samuel Jackson, all the rest, and all the foreshadowing that went on. But what's cool about it, though, is you see a lot of that happening now. So you've got Iron Man, obviously, just this week or last week, Doctor Strange came out. Some of these more, I would call them obscure, and maybe not to everybody out there, but more obscure superheroes. But from the reviews that I've heard and read, and it's on my list to see this week. It's a fantastic movie, right? And
you're talking Doctor Strange,
Doctor
right?
Strange, right? And we're going to be reviewing that in coming podcasts.
Right. Doctor Strange was fantastic. I loved it. The wife and I went and saw it. We got a babysitter. Brita, my wife, loves that kind of stuff, and so she's all on board with it. We went down and saw it together. It was great. They really have, so you're hitting on this thing where Iron Man, Doctor Strange, on Netflix, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and
Flash.
Green
Arrow,
they're DC. Those guys are DC, sure.
Yeah.
But in the Marvel world, the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, these aren't your Spider-Mans and Incredible Hulks. They're not Thor. They're not Captain America. They're not these big names that most people are going to readily identify and kind of know a little bit about. But Guardians of the Galaxy was amazing. The thing was amazing. I just loved it. And I'm super excited for the next one that's coming out. But they have definitely thought it out. They've definitely planned it. So we get all these origin stories. And Ant-Man. Did you see Ant-Man? Ant-Man was...
No,
Oh,
I didn't.
Dude, you gotta see that movie. Ant-Man...
It was really funny, actually.
It was so good. I went into it going, I don't know much about Ant-Man. I know some of the basics and whatnot, and a quick cursory Wikipedia glance will kind of give you...
Playbill.
Yeah, here's your playbill for Ant-Man. I was like, thank you, as I go to my seat and I find out also about tuxedo rentals on the back page.
That's right.
But I went into it with, not a lot of expectations, hoping that it would be kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, where I didn't know a ton about it, but I was going to come in and see it and love it, and I did. And I have yet to go to a Marvel movie that I felt that way, even on stuff I'm not really familiar with. So definitely go check out Doctor Strange. I definitely want to talk about this with you. I want to get into this on the
Ant-Man,
podcast.
obviously.
And Ant-Man.
And you know what? For Spencer's mom, also go see Anne of Green Gables because it's really heartwarming.
Don't tell her I said that.
And I think it plays back to the fact that people are probably a little tired of seeing 9 installments of Batman or the like, or the Marvel's version. It's people want different. People want a new story, a new hero.
Yeah, we want to see new heroes. We want to see stories about people who could be us, right? I mean, that's the beauty. Okay, so I'm going to get on this for just a second. Spider-Man. The beauty of Spider-Man is that this kid's a teenager, and he's going through normal kind of teenager problems. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, who did Spider-Man, created him. Just a phenomenal idea. Let's get away from adults with superpowers, and let's get away from all these, Supermen and Batmen and, all these big tough guys. Let's go with a geeky, nerdy teenager who inherits these powers and is trying to balance, like, saving New York City and delivering pizzas and getting homework done in time for the science fair.
Right,
so,
right.
So we want to see new things. We want to see things that resonate with us. And so I think that's why, some of these movies, like in Ant-Man's, the character of Scott Lang, he's a criminal. I mean, he's a lovable criminal, and you're going to really like him when you see it, Steve. But,
so are you.
Well, thank you.
It was a misdemeanor, really, but whatever.
I mean, they can't get me on charges. Yeah. I'm
she
good.
dropped the charges. Oh, gosh.
But he's a criminal. He's kind of on the fringe of society, so to speak. But yet you root for the guy. You're wanting him to do well. You come away going, man, yes, I was on board with this guy. They're doing a great job of doing that. I'm not going to say the other side of DC isn't, but it's not been as high quality. I think they're trying really hard. They're trying to kind of capture that magic that Marvel's kind of got going right now.
Right.
But, man, I really don't need another Batman origin story.
Well, I think to round this discussion out, I mean, obviously, as we talked about it, it's human nature to want to know about where people began and what motivates them. And so as these podcasts go along, we're going to share a little bit more about us, and we hope that you're going to share more about you, and we're going to get to know you, because this is an opportunity to make connections, and that's what this is all about. Absolutely.
And I actually reached out today, Steve, I unbeknownst to you, because I'm going to be kind of the social media guy for the podcast. I've got some friends of mine who listen to some other podcasts that I'm kind of a listener to, and I tend to contribute some comments and questions to occasionally. Yeah. And I put a question out there. I said, okay, guys, give me your top 3 origin story movies. And so I've got a couple responses, and I'm going to read them now.
Nice.
Chowfie, these are all on Twitter, by the way. Chowfie at that Chowfie. He says, my top 3 are Back to the Future, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Toy Story. And then he says, good luck on your first episode. Man,
awesome.
Chowfie nails it there. I was like, Back to the Future. I'm like, dude, the first movie, that is a great origin story, because you set up everything for the next 2 movies.
Oh my gosh.
And it's how he gets the DeLorean and what he's able, man, perfect, right? Guardians of the Galaxy.
Get your dang hands off her. Lorraine, will you be my...
You're my density. I mean, destiny.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
So Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Toy Story. Now, I've seen a lot of Toy Story now with the 2 boys.
As have I with 4, yeah.
But the first one, I mean, isn't that the first one's a great origin story. You set up Buzz Lightyear, you introduce him into an existing kind of ecosystem of toys in Andy's room. Perfect. So thanks, Chowfie. Those were great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ed Placentia, at Ed Placentia, good friend, says Unbreakable. Do you remember Unbreakable?
Oh my gosh, yes.
What, like, that's a comic book movie about
Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis.
Yeah, comic book movie about comic books that, like, you don't really get that until the very end, where it's like, the kids used to call me Mr. Glass. And you're like,
oh my gosh.
What? He's a villain? This whole time?
I hated that movie when I first saw it. I hated it. And then I watched it not over and over, but I watched it a few more times. I love that movie. I think it's a subtle It's a subtle superhero movie, right?
Yeah.
It's not the capes and the tights and the boots. It's
right.
It's every man.
It's
That's awesome.
It's a poncho and a baseball cap.
When he's benching the paint buckets in his basement, and he's like, add some more, and his son keeps adding more.
Yeah,
it's a great scene.
Yeah, so Ed says Unbreakable. They says Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire go around.
Yeah,
and Batman Begins. And so I'm okay with all of those. I think those are all great. And then
send him a T-shirt.
Yeah, we'll get him that Fortress of Nerditude T-shirt on the way.
All right.
The last one I've got is Josh Stapleton, which is obviously my brother. Yeah. I hear he's kind of a bum. Josh Stapleton at CRed_81. He says Casino Royale, so he's hitting the James Bond theme.
Okay.
Which Casino Royale, Josh, is a great pick because it is. While we've had lots of James Bond movies, Casino Royale is supposed to be the first one, his first mission, and how he got his 00 license, and with the ability to kill.
And I will give a shout out. That scene in the bathroom is raw. I loved when that was kind of our one of our first like you said, origin stories of James Bond. It wasn't the Pierce Brosnan, it wasn't the clean and simple. It was raw. I love that.
Right. Yeah, brutal. But I liked it because it made it feel like the Jason Bourne movies, right? Like, this is what like a real assassin would be like. It's not going to be like, I just, smoked a cigar and had a martini and then shot him with a pistol. Ha ha.
That's right. I drowned him in a broken sink in a urinal.
Right.
I choked him with a pink smell good disc.
Right, exactly. So Josh says Casino Royale, Batman Begins, and Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. And then he also says, hope the podcast doesn't suck. So gotta give it up for my brother.
That's right. Hopefully it doesn't.
So yeah, we'll see. So I agree on all those. Casino Royale, Batman Begins was great, even though we've seen Batman enough. It was really well done in Batman Begins. And then Star Wars Episode 4, it sets up the entire Star Wars universe. Luke gets, inklings of the Force, and he gets trained, and Alderaan blows up, and he's, Ben senses a disturbance of the Force, and there's all this stuff kind of going on that's building a myth and a mythos, and great. Yeah. So Chowfie, Josh, and Ed, thanks for replying. So Steve, every week we're gonna ask listeners, if we get a few, a question. This week I kind of put it out ahead of time. What are their top 3 movies? So let me ask you, what would be your top 3 origin story movies?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot now.
Well, that's what I like to do.
Origin stories. I think Genesis in the Bible is a fantastic. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Pulled that one out of your book.
You're not going old school. You're going Old Testament.
Yeah, I really have to think about it. So I'm going to have to get back to you next week on that.
No. You got to give me your top 3 now.
I really I don't want to just say like me too, ditto. But I think Batman Begins I thought Christopher Nolan did fantastic. He did it different, and I thought that was an awesome origin story reboot where I haven't seen a lot of really good redos. One that I like, and call me old school, but I loved the original Superman with Christopher Reeves. I don't care. They're going to do them over and over.
1978 Superman.
Until long since we were done. But man, when you see Marlon Brando in the frickin' shimmering bathrobe amongst, stalagmites and stalactites made of glass, and supposed to be ice, obviously, but it wasn't. Sure. That's fantastic. Loved it. The little naked baby and the little, blue tinfoil. It's fantastic.
Okay, so you're saying Batman Begins, the 1978 Superman.
Because for lack of others.
Okay.
And gosh, I have to think about it.
Boy, Dead Air's really appealing, by the way. How do you take all the time in the world?
Yeah, we'll edit that part out. Out. Let me throw it back to you, though. So
my top 3. I'm going to say the number 1, and my brother hit it right on the head, Star Wars: A New Hope, Episode 4. Star Wars has probably been one of the most, gosh, this sounds religious, but one of the most influential movies on my life. I love it, love it, love it dearly. It's got a special place in my heart. So that's going to be the number one.
Oh, wait, I got one. Sorry.
Oh, here we go.
The freaking Hobbit. Okay, so you could pick up with Lord of the Rings and go on and on, but to find out about Smaug and to find out, the power of the ring, but it's still mystical. To find out about Gollum, yeah, I love The Hobbit. I love the whole series.
So the Hobbit movie that was done after the Lord of the Rings, that's your third pick.
No.
You're saying the book.
Yeah, the book.
Oh no, are you going to the Rankin and Bass cartoon? Is that the one?
Yes. Oh my freak! I love that cartoon when Bilbo's the short little pudgy he's
yes.
Dude, I love
Chip the classes, crack the place. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
And then when Smaug is like, look at my chest, and then he's like, oh, and he sees that one little piece of his chest that's gone. You saved me there, Spencer. I love that. Is my origin story. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, okay. That is totally awesome.
Yeah, that's right, it is. Flashback Mondays.
Nice. Okay, so, gosh.
And I'm glad that you knew who directed it. Only you.
Oh, so
Carl Winslow reference.
Reginald VelJohnson. You know what's in those Twinkies? Red dye number 5. Okay.
That's right.
So I'm going to say my top 3. Okay, so Star Wars: A New Hope, that's my number 1. I'm gonna go with Iron Man for number 2. Thanks to my mom.
To your mom.
Thanks to my mom. Gotta love her. I'm gonna go Iron Man number 2. Gosh, and then I really, really loved Captain America, the First Avenger. I thought that one was a really well done, period piece. That introduced, kind of everyone to Captain America, but it still made it exciting and fun, and I really like that. And I the whole Chris Evans Captain America movies have been great, but I'm gonna say those are my top 3. So
nice.
Plus, because I don't want to also do the me too. So we'll go with those 3. So okay. Those are my top 3. We've heard your top 3. Now the question is going to be for next week for our listeners, and we'll kind of come back to this briefly. Like I said, there's some movies, some origin story movies that haven't been great. I can think of the Fantastic Four. Not so good. Daredevil. I mean,
oh my gosh.
So my question is to the listeners: what is your worst origin story movie? What's the one that if someone's gonna sit you down to watch an origin story movie and they pull this DVD out, or
you'd rather have bamboo shoots put under your toenails?
Right, exactly. What's the one you can't stand? So we're on Twitter, and that's where you're gonna find us at Fort of Nerd. Let us know your number one worst. Your number one worst origin story movie. Or you can reach us by email at fortofnerd@gmail.com and let us know what you're thinking. Every week we're going to ask you a question, something related to what we talked about, and we're going to read those on the show the following week. This week we did, obviously, a discussion. We're going to continue to do that. But once a month we are going to do a movie club. And my wife, Brita, is going to join us, and we will go from 2 people to 3 people. And we're gonna talk about a movie, and we're gonna kind of dissect it, and we're gonna kind of go over things we really liked, and that'll be the conversation. So, coming up for the month of December, we're gonna obviously do Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. That's gonna be the movie we're gonna see.
Booyah!
And we're gonna talk about. So, be prepared for that. We'd like you to go out and see the movie, and then we're going to ask questions, and we would like some participation, so be prepared for that. Steve, what do we need our listeners to do for us?
You need to rate us on iTunes, so Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the Fortress of Solitude.
Yes, I don't know exactly how that's going to help us, but the more people that can find us, I think the better off we are, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nice.
We look forward to getting with you guys every week and having some fun.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Real quickly before we run out, there's just one last thing I wanted to do. We had a lot of people that I've kind of talked to prior to the podcast as we were kind of getting it set up, and I just want to say some quick thank yous. First of all, I want to thank my wife, who's allowing me to do this podcast and making sure the kids are asleep so we can record. She was great for some podcast ideas and some formatting issues, and so we're really excited to have her on when we do our movie club once a month. I want to thank from Married to the Games, some friends of mine, Gabe Patillo, one of their hosts. Had a great chance to talk with him, and he gave me some tips and tricks, and he's there for moral support. He's a great guy. Timothy Hall, one of the former co-hosts on Married to the Games podcast, has talked to me about a bunch of the audio and kind of the back end and the editing. Ed Placentia, a good friend of mine, sat down with me and bounced ideas off of, and kind of was this good sounding board. Gave me a bunch of interesting things to kind of think about and consider, as well as Sean Capri. Sean Capri sat down with me, talked to me. He runs a podcast called We the Nerdy, where he brings people on once a week, and he talks with them. And you know what, man, I totally failed on this. I spaced this. What I need to do, Steve, is I need to give out the where can you find these people type of information. So obviously Ed Placentia is at Ed Placentia on Twitter. Let's see, my brother Josh, who I thanked, obviously is at CRed_81. Sean Capri is, I think it's just at Sean Capri. And as he says, Sean like Connery and Capri like the pants. It's great. I love that tagline,
they're not really
Sean.
Pants, they're more like short. Anyway, yes,
yeah.
I got you.
Love that tagline, Sean. That's great. So he's a podcaster, runs We the Nerdy. Gabe Patillo and Ed Placentia, Married to the Games. If you're not listening to those two podcasts, please go out and subscribe to them.
Missing out.
Yeah,
you're missing out.
They're wonderful, wonderful. And then last, I want to thank my sister-in-law, Clarice Gifford, who put together the artwork. Yeah, she did the logo we're going to be using for the podcast, all for us, free of charge, on her own time. She's a great graphic designer, and I just want to thank her. So,
I guess I got a few as well, Spence. I'll just add to this.
Yeah,
so
go.
I've got two people that are just always creative influences in my life that just say, hey, just do it, just go out, just do it, because it's always going to be regret if you don't. So this has always been a bucket list of mine and Spencer's to do. Brian Thibodeau, he's a great friend of mine, lives in Carmel, Indiana, and he's heavy into advertising and just a creative guy. So he always encourages me to get out there. Theo Van Blyenberg, kind of the same, been a longtime friend and grown-up friend. He also just encourages this. And then lastly, Ed Beck, co-worker and also a good friend.
Nice. Well done. Okay, so let's sign off, Steve. This is the way we're going to sign off every episode.
Absolutely.
You do the honors this week.
Are you sure?
Yeah. You know what? You do us the honors.
May the force be with you. Always.